Hi everyone. I saw a YouTube short that annoyed me, so I'm gonna make a video about this. You may have heard that all the mega evolutions are X or Y shaped, and you may have just scoffed at it and been like, well, that's dumb. Like, you can put an X or Y over any Pokemon and claim it's X or Y shaped. If you haven't heard of it, welcome to hell. So Taco was the person that I first saw post about it. I think some other people have maybe talked about it before, but like Taco's like the main sort of, he's the X and Y shape guy. And when it first happened, people were like just taking like Sugimori art and responding and just like drawing over it and being like, no, look, you can actually make a Y out of it. It's not, this is not real. This is not true. I can see where people come from. It's a very vague sort of criteria. So I can see why people wouldn't believe it or just think it's just a coincidence or anything of that sort. But if you bear with me, I'm gonna go into why I think it's plausible and why I believe it's a thing. I will also recommend, if you care about this, you probably don't, Taco made a full like hour-long video before ZA came out, actually, just looking at all the mega evolutions so far and just explaining himself. Like, why does he think this is X-shaped? Why does he think this is Y-shaped? And like, I think the only Pokemon he couldn't come to a solid conclusion on was like Kangaskhan. He just wasn't 100% sure. That's like the only one he couldn't really explain. So that's a good watch if you're into this at all. Anyways, let me go into why I personally believe it. Pokemon is a very, like, as much crap as we want to give them for the games and the quality of the games, the actual monsters, that's what we're all here for. There's so many details, references, like these monsters are complex. You can look at Flamigo and be like, haha, he's just a flamingo, but he's shaped like a boxing glove. Like, there's more to it than that. And this is why I truly can't say I really hate any Pokemon. I can find some appreciation for every Pokemon, even if I don't particularly like it that much. I just think the Pokemon themselves, a lot of work goes into making those guys. And I'm constantly learning new things about Pokemon because there's so many details. I think it would be easier if I just showed you why I think Pokemon is very detail oriented and why I don't think it's a stretch that upon mega evolving, certain Pokemon would be shaped more towards a Y or an X, sometimes both. So when I think of like small details in Pokemon, I think of the Pokemon's base stat total. I've got 3 examples of times that Pokemon has used the Pokemon's base stat total. Actually 4 now that I think about it. It's part of like their lore. And the craziest thing is, as far as I know, there is no way for us to look at the Pokemon's base stat total outside of looking on websites like Cerebi or PokemonDB. I don't think like the base stat totals for Pokemon is known in game. We get them from like data mines and stuff. And it's kind of crazy because, like I said, they use this number that we can't even see to reference the Pokemon. So first one, Spinda. Spinda is a spinning panda. And if you spin, you can spin in a 360-degree circle. And Spinda's base stat total is 360. It's 60 in every stat. It's not a strong Pokemon. It is a cool one though. And yeah, it's base stat total 360 because it spins. Could be a coincidence. Maybe they just wanted Spinda to have 360, Spinda. Maybe they just wanted to have 360 base stat total for just because they hate Spinda and they want it to be bad. I don't know. But then there's the Ultra Beasts. I've talked about this one a few times. The Ultra Beasts, I'm going to read directly from Bulbapedia, so I'm not misspeaking. The base stats of the Ultra Beasts and the levels at which they learn moves in Generation 7, except level 1, are all prime numbers. This is a trait shared with Cosmog and its evolved forms. The only exception to this is Naganadel, which has a speed stat of 121, which is prime power. Why they chose to make them prime numbers, I don't know, but Pokemon care, okay? They care about their monsters. Another one, if you think that's just a coincidence, it's like, oh, they just wanted a quirky like leveling scheme for them because they're aliens, so they just chose prime numbers. It means nothing more, whatever. Like, okay, Archeops. Archeops is Pokemon number 567. Its base stat total is 567, and the Dewey Decimal System for dinosaurs is 567. The Dewey Decimal System is a system that breaks up the non-fiction books up into different subjects, assigning a range of numbers to specific subjects. So just a coincidence, I guess. They don't actually care that much about like a Pokemon's like base stat total or anything. It's just coincidence. And the other one I thought of mid-recording was Spiritomb. Spiritomb is always talking about 108 souls. and each of his defense stats is 108 defense, 108 special defense. I'm sure there's a lot more out there, but in terms of just base stat totals, a stat that we can't even see in the games, we have to go online to see these, they reference the Pokemon's lore in some way. So now I ask, is it completely deranged to think a video game franchise that is as detail oriented as that, you know, down to the numbers of the Pokemon's stats, like to reference things just in that, is it deranged to think that in a game called Pokemon X and Y, another thing as well, they also are obsessed with letters. Lysander is known as F, I think, in Japanese, but in like, obviously he's Lysander, so he's called L for us. The main guy is AZ. I mean, Lysander literally has an X and a Y patch on him, which, you know, cute little reference, whatever. I just don't think it's all that crazy to think that they would do little motifs or references to the shapes of X and Y in Mega Evolution designs. And people, I think, completely misunderstand this. You've got to really look into the details. And it's not just the Sugimori art. Sometimes the Sugimori art references the shape of them, sure, but it's more like the models, animations they do in said models. The best way I can explain it is, I think it's where there's a change where there didn't necessarily have to be one in that Pokemon's design. I'm not saying they designed every Mega Evolution around being an X or a Y shape. I think they just added little motifs that provide a X or Y shaped shape, or like in some cases a little bit more of a silhouette towards that. Some Pokemon, it's pretty obvious, like Mega Abomasnow. Maybe they did design that guy around being more X-shaped. Maybe that was the idea. You know, he gets on all fours and he's got two spikes coming out of his back. Like even his Sugimori art looks X-shaped. Metagross, I mean, you don't even have to, that's an X. If you look at Mega Medicham, you can sort of see a Y shape in the Sugimori art, but like it's Mega Evolution animation, it's like, it's Y-shaped. Taco already made a video and I will link it in the description. He goes very in depth and explains his case on every Pokemon. I think another convincing one, honestly, is Sableye. Mega Sableye, for no reason, just has like a little X where his the hole in his chest is from, you know, his gem coming out. Like there's just an X there for Y. Yeah, I'm not here to try and convince anyone of anything necessarily, by the way. You can still fully be like, it's too vague. It's, you know, definitely a coincidence. That's fine. I just think with how much Pokemon care about small details like this, I would not be surprised if it were true. Not to mention, I mean, Mega Raichu X and Y, they're also X and Y shaped, like very clearly X and Y shaped. I feel like I always have to like over explain myself to reiterate. Yes, I'm sure you can look at Absol and you can make an X or a Y shape out of it if you try really hard. But a lot of the placements of certain aspects of certain Pokemon, I think Manectric is probably the best example of this. Mega Manectric, like when it's facing forward, it's just got these extra like appendages that make it look Y-shaped that it doesn't have as a regular Manectric. Like they had to go out of the way to add this, is basically the point. Yeah, I guess let me know your thoughts. I think maybe we're giving Pokemon too much credit. And the thing is, right, at the end of the day, it's just shapes and colors, man. Like at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. What if they're all X and Y? I just think it's cool. I like the idea that Xerneas and Yveltal's like DNA of sorts kind of affected the Pokemon that can Mega Evolve, and it changed their shape in a way that makes them a little bit more X or Y shaped. You know, I just think that's kind of cool. And like Mega Evolution's designs aren't necessarily consistent. Like we got something like Mega Babaracle that looks like an evolution, honestly. That looks like it should be like a new Pokemon. And then there's like Mega Feraligatr, which I love, by the way, but it's like face doesn't even change. You know what I mean? Like this Mega Energy, whatever it is that allows them to be evolved further, it clearly doesn't affect every Pokemon equally. Not all Pokemon is made the same in that regard. So that's why some are more X and Y shaped than others, maybe. I don't know, man. Another interesting one was Mega Latias and Mega Latios, because obviously Latias, you take those colors, you put them together, you get purple. They're both purple. Personally, don't love it because it just makes them look like the same Pokemon. However, theory is because they're legendary, they're special, they make both an X and a Y shape, and also because, you know, they're the Lati twins, you know, they mix they would do both X and Y. Whatever, man. I think it's really cool. I think it's a cool idea. I believe it. If you don't believe it, that's fine. I just don't think it's completely insane to believe it. is what I'm trying to explain here. And I hope I made my point.